Alrighty, good evening, my favorite people, my good people. How are you tonight? I just want to take this time to just thank everyone who joined the study meet this morning. I think it was very successful this morning. I took some time to look over some of the questions and stuff that we did today and kind of was like just asking myself, like, God, was I beneficial to them this morning? Did I teach them everything that I could have taught them? Did I do a good job, with explaining everything to them? So I did a little self-reflection for myself today, something that we all can, take advantage of sometimes. But I did just want to extend like my just gratitude to everyone for joining today. I really appreciate the answers that everyone gave, the rationales behind why they picked a certain answer. I don't really have any rules for when we do meet, just we be respectful to one another. And if you are going to answer one of the questions, please be prepared to explain why you chose that to be your best answer. So I think it was very successful today, but leave a comment and let me know how you thought about the study meet this morning. So tonight I thought that I would do some termination questions. I'm gonna have some people asking me to do some termination questions. So here it is. It's time to terminate, or is it? These kind of questions, you will see them on the exam, but some of the times it's just like, okay, is this a termination question or is this not, right? So when is the right time to terminate? You see a question that says, goals have been met, the client is no longer benefiting from therapy. That tells me like, oh, we're in an impasse. It's not working anymore. I'm feeling anxious every time I have to see you. You guys are sitting there arguing the whole time. Nothing is beneficial coming from it. Maybe we do need to terminate. Client requests to end. Client has autonomy. If they're ready to terminate, then hey, that's on them. Just collaborate with them. Figure out why they're trying to terminate if it is too early on, and then we will discuss that as well. And just like I said, if we're continuing therapy and it's doing more harm than good, then yes, it's definitely time to terminate, especially when it comes to like some transference that's going on and you feel like now the boundaries are just far too blurred with everything that's going on in the sessions with your client. Definitely, it is time to terminate. Boundaries, ethical concerns become a part of therapy and you just can't seem to look past them. It is definitely time to terminate. And of course, if you are leaving the practice, you're changing jobs or whatever, or you just for some whatever reason you can't do therapy anymore, those are the right times for you to terminate with the client. But it has to be done the correct way. It has to be done a certain way. So here it is, some of the ethical guidelines when it comes to terminating therapy. And these ethical guidelines is going to come from your code of ethics. When it comes to termination, like boundary issues and things of that nature, transference, please read your code of ethics. Get familiarized with your code of ethics. Your code of ethics will teach you more than you need to know when it comes to termination with the client. Because the first thing that it says here, you cannot abandon your client. If those goals have not been reached yet and you're just like, oh, well, I just can't work with this I just can't work with this family anymore, like I'm done with them, and you just think that you're going to terminate, that's unethical. You can't do that. Because termination has to be what? You have to prepare your clients for termination in advance. If you see a question that is discussion termination, you must choose the response that is going to say collaborate with that client or that family. Do not make the decision all on your own. Same way when it comes to treatment goals. You need to collaborate with your client or your family. You cannot make that decision on your own, right? When you are terminating, you have to provide referrals. If the therapist is saying, hey, I need to terminate, like I'm leaving this job, I'm going someplace else, whatever, this is not working, this therapeutic relationship isn't working anymore, you have to provide them with referrals. You just can't just leave them hanging in the balance, right? Because the client welfare has to be prioritized. And if the client's welfare is going to be prioritized, that means that I need to be handling this termination the correct way and following the proper steps so that I can ensure that my client is going to be well taken care of in the process, of you leaving and them trying to be referred or sent to another agency, sent to another therapist, whatever the case may be. Read your code of ethics. It is going to teach you so much about your ethical guidelines when it comes to termination with your client or with your families that you will be working with. There are different kind of questions that are formulated, and I drew all of these questions from AATBS and Jerry Grossman, right? So one of the first questions, a couple has reached all of their treatment goals and reports increased satisfaction in their relationship. What should the therapist do next? That's like, is it appropriate for you to be ready to terminate? That question tells me that all their treatment goals have reached, they have increased satisfaction. What should the therapist do next? 9 times out of 10, you are going to look for a response that says, begin termination. Begin termination, start doing this, assess, look over goals, do this or whatever, because it's appropriate for you to terminate, right? So the next one says, this is unexpected termination like request. It's like early on. A client informs the therapist they want to end therapy abruptly after one session. It could be like 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions. But what is the most ethical response? When you have a question that explains that your client or your family is saying, hey, this is going to be the last session after they've only been there for like 3 and 4 sessions, look for a response that is going to say explore. Explore with that client or explore with that family as to why they are trying to terminate early. Do not pick an answer that says just terminate. You can't do that. It's only been 1 session. It's only been 2 sessions. It's only been 3 sessions. Explore why they want to terminate abruptly and doing it so early on. Now, premature termination. A client stops attending sessions, doesn't return any phone calls. You've been contacting them day after day, trying to get them to answer the phone. What do? Your response should include something like, try and attempt again, and then you document. That's all that you can do. There's literally nothing else that you can do. How else are you supposed to get in contact with them? I've seen other questions that say stuff like, oh, the last time that you met with this client, they were talking about suicidal ideation. Now they're not answering the phone. Then what should you do? But that's different from like termination. This question just simply asks like, oh, they haven't been returning any phone calls. What are you going to do? They stopped showing up. Just document it. Make another attempt and just document it. That is a response that you should be looking for when you see a question regarding premature termination. Now, when a therapist ends the relationship, a therapist is closing their practice due to retirement. What is the ethical concerns that the therapist needs to take? Your response needs to include something about you have to give them notice and provide them with referrals. You have to give your client notice that you are ending this therapeutic relationship. You cannot just leave them hanging in the balance, because then what? That's client abandonment, and that goes against the code of ethics. Again, read your code of ethics. You will be better able to understand how to answer these termination questions. Code of Ethics is going to teach you about client abandonment. They're going to teach you about how you do the referrals and everything. They're going to teach you about transference and when it's time to terminate and when it's time to seek consultation because you have some counter-transference or something going on. Read your Code of Ethics. These are just a few exam tips, and this is just from me. This is what I have learned, so I'm just sharing it with everyone else. So, always consider the client first. You always have to put the client first. The client is important. When you get ready to leave, you say you want to terminate and you done with this client, you're only thinking about yourself. You can't do that because then again, what is that going to be? Abandonment. Their welfare needs to come first. They need to have some place where they can go so that they are not just left hanging in the balance, right? Prepare the clients for termination. You cannot just do a surprise attack. Oh, surprise, this is the last session you and I are going to have. Termination needs to be collaborative. You have to work with that client. Don't ever choose a response that says, oh, I'm terminating with this client because of this, that, and the third. No, you can't do that. You have to collaborate with the client. Your response needs to include collaborating with the client on termination and moving forward with providing referrals or whatever the case may be. Next one, offer referrals, and assist with the transition. That's the collaboration that I'm talking about, right? Therapists, we should not be terminating therapy unless there's legal or safety concern. Immediate harm to themselves or others. So this is like I think of this as being like for me. If I have a client that is threatening to kill me, that's grounds for termination. I have a client that's stalking me, terminate. I got a client that's just constantly like showing up to, my practice. I feel uncomfortable being around them because they're just jumping out of nowhere and everything. Termination. I'm sorry, you can't stay on my caseload because now I don't feel safe being around you. That's grounds for termination. Like immediate termination would come from that, right? But then they also talk about how poses harm, to themselves. And I guess that looks along the lines of if they were to get hospitalized, then I guess it's like, oh, well, then maybe they're dropped from my caseload. So now they're not going to be on my caseload anymore. So then it's termination, all in all. But yes, if a client is in a crisis saying that they want to kill themselves, they feel like they want to die or whatever, they feel like they're hopeless, you cannot terminate. You do not pick an answer that says terminate, because you have to make sure that the client welfare is always going to come first. If that client is telling you, I just don't want to do therapy anymore, I want to kill myself, you cannot let them terminate. You got to assess this, right? You have to assess first. Safety always comes first, right? Client welfare always comes first. Respecting clients' autonomy is key. That is true. We can respect our clients when they say that they want to terminate, only in certain situations, right? Sometimes abrupt termination without discussion can harm the client because then it'll be client abandonment. Like I said, we can respect our clients' rights to terminate only in certain circumstances, right? Just like I just said, if that client is telling you, oh, I'm going to kill myself, I don't want to come back to therapy next week or whatever, you can't let them terminate. They'll have questions like that, where it'll sound like that, where those words are just like looking all funky and all over the place or whatever. Pay attention to what those words are saying and do not ignore the red flags, right? Document. Every time you see a response that talks about termination or whatever, and if it has something to do with the client trying to reach, the therapist trying to reach the client and the therapist can't reach that client, you have to document it. Look for a response that's going to include you documenting it, because ethically you're going to have to show proof of that, right? The length of time in therapy, do not ignore this. This is a big one. I learned this myself from looking at all of the questions I studied, AATBS, Jerry Grossman, Family Solutions Institute. I had a pattern of looking at questions that when it would say, you have been working with this client for the past 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and there is no progress being made, how should you proceed? Every single answer for one of those questions that was worded that way was begin termination and discuss it with the client. The length of time in therapy. If you've been in therapy with this client 6, 7, 8 months, 9, 10, 11, close to a year, and there's no progress, it is time to discuss termination, find out what's going on, why is there no progress being made, and see why this client seems to still be stuck doing the same thing for the past year that you've been working with them in therapy. I figured that out all myself. I was like, okay, so this is a pattern to these kinds of questions. And I always paid attention when it came to the termination questions. I always paid attention to how long that client has been in therapy. And that will lead you to finding your best answer. I wish I could have found some questions for that, but I didn't. I'm going to try to find some. Trust me. I'm going to try to find some, and I'm going to show you guys a little trick that I did when it came to the questions. But let's do some questions really quickly. And I do not have any answers or rationales, because just like I told everybody in the study meet this morning, when it comes to the exam, you won't have it. All you will have is what's up here. So I have the answers to these questions all up here, and I'm going to work through them with you all. Okay. No answers, no rationales, no breadcrumbs. We're just training ourselves to be like, okay, I'm in exam mode right now. Okay. So it says, a teenage client wants to end therapy after 3 sessions, claiming it's not helping, though the parents disagree and the progress is limited, right? What is the most appropriate next step? Look at that. Another next question like we had this morning, right? A says to honor the teen's request and end therapy. Again, our clients have autonomy, right? They can terminate therapy. But just like I just discussed, this is early on. It's only been 3 sessions, just 3 sessions, remember? And we just don't simply pick an answer that says terminate, right? B says refuse termination due to parental consent. That has absolutely nothing to do with it, right? This is a question regarding this client saying that they don't want to do therapy anymore. So what do we need to do? C says explore the teen's perspective, assess motivation, and involve both parties in planning the steps. Sounds nice, right? And D says continue with the parent only. So here we go. Let's walk through it. D, again, minused out. Continue with the parents only. We're systemic. Why are we minusing out the kid? The kid is the one that's saying that they don't want to do therapy anymore, right? So D is automatically out. C says explore the teen's perspective, assess motivation, and involve both parties in planning the next steps. Now, that's a collaborative answer, right? But remember what I said. Whenever you see a question that has someone trying to your client trying to early on terminate, you're always going to look for the response that says something about explore as to why they want to end therapy so soon and they have just gotten there. Makes sense? Simple and easy, right? This was a pretty easy, straightforward question. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay. A single mother of 3 has made great progress in trauma therapy. Okay, good. Recently, she lost her job and tells you she can no longer afford the sessions. She is highly anxious about ending therapy, and you believe premature termination could reverse her progress. What is the most appropriate action for this therapist? I like that question. Action means like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, let's get active with it. What are our next steps that we're going to have to do, right? A says provide a sliding scale or referral options and collaboratively plan termination. That answer sounds so nice because it's got all those beautiful words in there, what I've been talking about this whole time, right? B says discontinue services immediately to avoid ethical complications. Sounds a little bit far-fetched, but C says continue therapy for free indefinitely due to the financial hardship. So, okay, now this therapist not only got some ethical concerns going on, but now she's about to be going pro bono and not getting paid for why she's doing it, right? D says suggest the client take a break until her financial situation improves. For the love of God, this lady is in progress from making some type of traumatic event that has occurred in her life, but now she has to take a break from it. And now on top of the traumatic experience that she'd had, she's hit some financial hardship. So let's just pile on some more trauma and stuff going on and just leave her hanging in the balance. That's how absurd D sounds to me. So minus it out immediately. Doesn't make any sense. We're not continuing for free. We put a lot of money in going to school. Now I got to get paid for free to go to help you? No, absolutely not. B says discontinue services immediately. No, because what? Client abandonment. You just can't abandon your client. You got to help them out first. Client welfare always comes first. We need to put our clients first before us. It's not about us, right? We're the ones that's helping them. We're getting paid to help them, right? Provide a sliding scale or referral options and collaboratively plan termination. Beautiful answer. Every single word that we've been talking about, how termination needs to be collaborative. First, you're going to put the client's welfare first because you're going to be providing a sliding scale, and you're also going to be providing her with some referral options so she's not left hanging in the balance. Good job. Alrighty. So this next one, you have been working with a multi-generational Asian American family for 9 months. There's that big number, 9 months you've been with them in therapy. The presented issue, intergenerational conflict, has significantly improved. The adolescent daughter reports improved communication with her parents, and the parents are using effective conflict resolution skills. Okay, so we got some progress here. However, the grandmother, who has formed a close bond with you, expresses some sadness about the sessions ending and says that therapy has become part of the family. Oh, well, after 9 months, I think I would feel that same way too, right? What is the most appropriate next step for this therapist? Are we going to do A, continue therapy out of respect for the grandmother's wishes? That's so sweet. I think that's very sweet, right? B says, explore the family's feelings around termination and co-create a culturally respectful ending plan. Very beautifully written, right? C says, refer the grandmother for individual therapy. And D says, terminate immediately to avoid the dependency. Okay, so let's take a look at this. And as absurd as D sounds, terminate immediately. There it is again. Just terminate, right? No collaboration with the client. No even talking to the grandmother trying to find out anything that she has going on. Because, it's one thing you're with your clients for sometimes a year, and the feelings that they have when it comes to termination is very valid, and we need to pay attention to that, right? So B says, explore the family's feelings around termination and co-create a culturally respectful ending plan. I love that, because B also includes the entire family, which includes grandma, even though grandma is going through it right now because she believes that they're like a family now. It includes the entire family, and it's also going to hit that cultural aspect, because in the vignette, you're working with a multi-generational Asian American family. B is the best answer. A says, continue therapy out of respect for the grandmother's wishes, but what about everybody else? Termination, it needs to be collaborative. I can't stress that enough. If you have a family that is mentioned in a vignette, when it comes to termination, you talk to the entire family about termination, not just grandma, even though I know grandma loves you and she feels like, you guys got a close bond and now you've become part of the family. But that is why B is the best answer. B includes the whole entire family, and you're going to be collaborating with them culturally in a respectful way to come up with an ending plan for them. Alrighty. All right, last one. So, a family has been in therapy for 6 months. Despite efforts, sessions are chaotic. Oh, wait, I did find a question like this. Good job. And members often yell over one another. You've tried structural and communication-focused techniques, but there's been no observable change. You feel stuck and you dread the sessions. What is the most ethical and clinically sound step? So, are we going to refer the family to another therapist with a different specialization? Maybe. Are we going to end therapy immediately and suggest self-help resources? So now you just want them to go find some books or some audio books to read to how to help themselves, right? Or C, express frustration to that family and see if they want to change. So now we're going to be sitting there confronting them. We're going to be sitting there challenging them. We're going to be sitting in there like we're Salvador Minuchin, intensifying those sessions and yelling at them and telling them that what they're doing is not right, right? So D is going to extend the treatment plan and continue working without change. So now not only are you frustrated, feeling stuck and dreaded, now you about to sit there week after week dreading this family, putting your own self in this, like having all this transference and stuff that's going on with you just because you want to avoid referring them out or terminating therapy with them. You've been with them for 6 months. There is no change. It's chaotic. They're yelling over one another. You sitting there crying, and probably you triangulated yourself into the family because you want to express frustration to them. The best answer here is A, refer that family to another therapist. Let that other therapist deal with them. Maybe he or she can, loosen the reins, or, I don't know, reel them back in and do something differently because it's not working for you, right? So I'm glad I did find a question. So yes, 6 months. See, 6 months, no change, refer out, terminate. Alrighty. So I think that's the last one. Yes, that is the last. So alrighty, a little chat with me like always. So, how did everybody think the study meet went today? Thoughts? Did you think that it was beneficial? Leave a comment. Any suggestions? Anything that I can do differently? Anything you want me to change? Anything you want me to see me do differently? I am all open to any type of constructive criticism, any thoughts, anything that I need to do differently. I am open for all of it. How are you all feeling regarding finding the best answers? I hope today it's better to not see their answers and rationales, and we come up with our own answers and rationales, so that when it does come time for the actual exam, you are sitting there going through those answers and rationales that you've created on your own when you're going through that exam. I'm trying my best to get rid of the instant gratification of knowing if we're right or we're wrong, because come time the exam, you won't have that. Okay? So tomorrow is the study meet. Promptly at 9:05, I will start sharing my screen. I will then stop allowing people in. Kudos to the people who were there on time today. Kudos to the people who were there at 8:55 a.m. today. I start allowing people in at 8:55 a.m. I will start letting people in. At 9:05, I'm done allowing people in. The study meet will start. It gets to be disruptive when I have to constantly drop the screen, add the person, drop the screen, add a person, drop the screen, add a person. I won't do that because I don't want to disrupt the people who are already in study mode. So tomorrow it's been switched up because I know people said they wanted to do the DSM-5. So tomorrow we will be doing DSM-5 questions. So clear your minds. Get ready for the DSM-5. See you guys tomorrow morning.